Hello everybody and welcome to Artistic Zeal Productions. Today we're going to do a car explosion, a tutorial on how to explode a car. So great options for action, mystery, everything you want to do for an indie film. So this is the explosion that we're going to try to recreate. Okay. This is part of that same tutorial after After Effects class canceled. We're going to recreate that explosion of the car blowing up in the parking lot, and there's several little elements that you can add, but it's really easy to do. Okay, the first thing I want you to notice is the fire elements. You can find some of these fire elements on YouTube and download those so you can use. If you have Action Essentials 2 from Video Copilot, that is what I'm using now. It's a great product. Also, you'll notice that some of the elements that are like dust, same thing from Action Essentials. We're also going to do is move this car up. We're going to use Photoshop to cut out the car and make it look like it's moving up in the air. You can see that part of the hood is popping up in the air, and we're going to shake the film, the video a little bit, so it looks like we're feeling the jolt of the explosion. And then Nally just does a really good acting job and flies off the screen. All right, so let's get started. If we start over in Photoshop, you can see that when I shot the footage, I took a picture of the car with the hood up. That way I can go back in, rotoscope out or mask out the car into sections. So we're going to cut out the car, we're going to cut out the hood, and fix a little section of the windshield here. This isn't, I'm sure if you're using After Effects, you already know how to use Photoshop. So go ahead and do that. You're going to go over to your lasso tool or your polygon tool and then start cutting out that section. Okay, once you've done that, it should look something like this. So now you can see I have it cut out. Okay, it's not perfect. Again, the element of fire is going to hide a lot of that. It's just so we show a little bit of movement, like the car got blown up in the air. I also cut out the hood, so you can see that that's gone. So it looks like we can animate that hood later on in the short. I also replaced the windshield. So when you cut out the windshield, you'll have this section. All I did was take a picture of the hood with it closed, cut out the windshield there in the mask, and then just added that back on there. So that recreates that little windshield. Okay, so now we have three sections. We're going to go back into After Effects and animate that into our little car explosion. Boom. All right. So now we are in After Effects. We're going to go ahead to Composition, create a new composition. You can name it Car Boom. As you can see, I'm just using one. Okay, I'll spell it out. Car Boom. I have it at 720 by 486. And for 30 seconds, we're going to hit OK. Now, the footage that I have is shot in HD, so we're going to go ahead and adjust the size of that. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag that into our footage here, onto our screen, and it's way too big. If you hit the comma on your keyboard, and the period, you can zoom in and out. Now I am using a PC. I'm going to right click and on my mouse and go to Transform, Fit to Comp. Okay, let's zoom in again. We're going to use that period. So you can see our footage fits right to the comp size that we did. I'm going to move our footage over to where Nally shows up, and I'm just going to cut it down to that size because we don't need all that extra stuff. And this is supposed to be really quick, so that way it makes it a little bit more realistic if it's just a small section that you're showing. So what I did is just move that timeline, the two bars in, and I'm going to trim to comp to just work on this section here. So here is Nally, and you see she does her little acting, pushes herself back. Did a great job. She didn't actually even fall to the ground. Boom! Little explosion, and she lands there. Okay, let's bring in some of our images. So we have the car images. Let's bring that in here. Again, if we use the comma, it'll bring it down. You can see that's way too big. Let's go to our select tool. Click it and hold the shift key. If you click on the corner and hold the shift, it'll keep everything uniform. It won't stretch it out into a weird shape. Just like that. We're not going to do that. Let's go back here. Hold down shift and then let go of the keyboard, not the keyboard, but the mouse. Let's zoom in again. And we're going to try to make it about the same size. That's actually a pretty good guess. Now you can see it's a little bit off. I think that's actually okay, and I'm going to push it a little bit forward because the element itself, we're going to make it disappear, only appear when it's engulfed in flame, so it'll kind of hide behind the mask. Now Nallie's going to be our key as to when that explosion happens. She's going to move a little bit. Okay, so right there, a dust element is pushing her back. So the likelihood the car is exploding right about there. So let's move our image to right about here, so you can see that we'll add the explosion elements, and then the car will move up in the air. We also want to add our hood. Let's see if I have that. So grab your hood, put it on here, and the same thing, we're going to rescale it. If you click on it, hold shift, bring it down to fit in there, and let's zoom back in there. Okay, drag it over to where the hood would be, and that's all right about there. And what we're going to do also is we're going to animate that hood. So let's move our footage over. Let's move over here. You can see the car. We're going to drag that down again a little bit. So now we have that part of the hood matching. So what we're going to do, if you hold down the space bar, you can grab the little hand and move over to where you want to work. What we're going to do is we're going to animate the hood here. So if you go over to your little drop down to transform, anchor point position, I'm just going to select all of them. I like to just have them all ready to go. So at this point, this is going to be one of our landing spots. So if I move back a few frames, let's say to right about here, just a couple of frames, I'm going to go up to our rotate tool up top here, and I'm going to rotate the hood so you can see that it kind of falls down there. Since our position's also already selected, because I made a keyframe, I'm going to just go back to my select tool, grab the hood, and just put it right where it would potentially go. So that way it animates up. Okay, so that gives that look of it's popping open. Now what we're going to do is also link or parent our hood with our car. The car is going to be, I'm going to have it move up and down. So I'm going to have that hood linked to the car. So that way if I move this car around, the hood will move with it. So same thing, we're going to animate the car too. So the ending point is going to be right where it is. So I'm going to put some keyframes. I already opened the transform, put all the keyframes for the stopwatches. I'm going to move back a couple of frames, and we can always move these around, but we're going to move the position. Let me do another set of keyframes here. We can always move these guys around. That's what's great about After Effects. The position here, I'm going to just click away because they're all selected, and then I'm going to move the car up a little bit so it makes that little animation look. And I'm also going to go back up to my rotate tool, and I'm going to turn it a little bit so it looks like it pops. Let's see, so it kind of jumps up a little bit. Now you can see that movement, the hood is right stuck with the car because we parented that. So very important. Okay, so there's our little movement, and then it'll move back down. So it'll be an up and down. Okay. Now you can see that it's not synced up with the other car because the camera is moving a little bit. That's not going to be a big deal. To make it look better, which you can do, is track the footage. If you saw the other tutorial on tracking text and creating a floating text, I show you how to track the scene. You're going to do the same thing with this, track it, and then you're going to put the tracking information to a null object and then link. You already have the hood linked to the car is going to be linked to the null object, and then everything will be in sync, which will make it look much better. We're just kind of short on time to do that. Okay, so now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring in our explosion. From Video Copilot's Action Essentials, I have a car bomb. We're going to put that on there. Boom, just like that. Okay, so we're going to resize that too. So let's bring down and scale it down here. Make sure we have our select tool, And I'm going to hold shift so it keeps everything even, and we're going to move that in. All right. Let's see here. Same kind of thing. We're going to make it explode right when we need to. Let's see. So Nally goes ahead and presses the button, boop, and there's the explosion because she's starting to move. So we're going to see there. Let's move that maybe right underneath the car. This great little image will wrap around. So what we want to do is maybe move that to match it wrapping around the engine here. So that looks all right. So you can see it kind of looks like it's coming right out underneath the car, and then it explodes and the car moves up. Okay, so it makes a little boom. Now I need to be a bigger explosion, so let's scale this up a little bit more. Okay, and then let's move it up a little bit. Actually, we're going to need to scale it a little bit more. Do you see the very top? It's cutting off because of the frame, so we want to make sure we're not showing that. Okay. So it still looks like it lights up right underneath. Boom. Okay. So let's get to right about here. Let's adjust our opacity on these guys, because we don't want to show that that car yet. So we're going to make a keyframe for our opacity and adjust that to 0 so our hood isn't showing yet. And then the same thing we're going to do with our car down here. Let's go down to here, and we're going to make a keyframe and adjust that to 0. And then we're going to remove the 100% here because we don't want to see the car. So once it goes like this, it makes a little movement, and we can actually fade it in a little bit faster. So let's go to the opacity again and bring that up a little bit faster. Move that a little bit closer. Same thing with the car. We want that to be a little bit visible, a little bit faster as soon as it gets engulfed with flames, so that way it moves. Boom. All right, so now we have that little motion, okay? And you can time it and make it however you like. We're also going to add a dust element. That one is also important. So if I grab the dust element, bring it on in here. Same thing, we wanted to make sure it's the right size, so let's scale down again. Use that comma on the keyboard. Click, hold shift, bring it down, and make it fit right where it's supposed to be flying in. Okay, let's move our dust element back right where Nally is being pushed. So right about here, she should start to get some of that dust coming at her. Okay, so we'll do it right about there. Now here's the thing about this. You can see that it does have a square. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a mask around that dust element. So we're going to go to the ellipse tool, I'm sorry. Same thing, go back to our mask, expansion in, feather it out, and there we go. Okay. Now we're going to animate that also. So what we're going to do is create a keyframe for everything there. Now Nally is moving back, so we want to get to the point where, let's move these elements over a little bit. Okay, let's position this guy back here because it's coming out of the car. Let's move over a little bit. It's too soon. Okay, so fire's going. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move this element and adjust the scale. So let's grab these guys here, move over here, and then when we get to the point where Nally is When we get to the point where Nally is jumping back, that means the dust element is already on her. So we're going to go to right about here, and we're going to scale up that dust element. So you can see just by scaling it, it looks like it's headed towards her. So we're going to scale it up, position it a little bit more in her direction, like so. So it looks like it just blows her away. Okay. So as you can see, that adds to a little bit more to the realism of the scene, because the wind will blow and push her off and make her fly back. Okay, and you also have your car movement. Looks like it pops open and explodes in there. It lands back a little bit too soon, too quickly. You can always adjust that by just changing the position on there, maybe moving it over a little bit further, so that way it lands a little bit slower. There you go. Looks a little bit more realistic. Okay, so your dust elements, your movement, your explosion, that all adds to your shot. The last thing you want to do is add a little bit of shake to your scene, so it looks like the camera was affected. So you go to Layer, New, create a camera. We're going to use 50 millimeter. That's what we shot with. And then you're going to make all these guys a 3D layer in order for them to be affected by the camera. So you're going to go ahead and select those, make them all 3D, this one too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit with the y-axis here, or the z-axis, I'm sorry. So right when it gets to here, let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, we're going to create a position for all of those again. And I'm just going to go page down, and I'm going to move the camera around a little bit. You can do a wiggle expression, but that's another thing to learn, which we don't have time for. I'm just going to move it around a little bit. Okay, that gives us a little bit of a shake, so it feels like the camera that was filming got hit by that wave of dust also and moved us around. Okay, so now as you can see, when you go, boom, it shakes. So let's see here. Boom, camera felt that explosion. Nally goes flying back. You have your elements, your car explodes, the pieces move up, open, it catches on fire. Piece of cake. All right, guys, that's our tutorial for the day. Thanks for watching, and the next one will be the bullet holes on the side of the car, and we'll see you next time.